Thank you. The possible exception of some various sentiments that I share, I would warrant that I'm probably the only person here to testify in favor of this increase. And that's because, of course, it's not up to Rhode Island Energy or this body to decide other than whether these rates have been fairly bid and reflect under the plan that was already approved that the gas is being acquired and what the price is. And Rhode Island Energy is only passing that through. So of course it would be silly to ask this body not to afford this increase, just that inquiry. Whether or not there are administrative detail, as in spreading out the payments, or other things, it is certainly open to question. But at root, no one can argue, given the current circumstances, that this is not a justified increase. Now, one can argue that there have been horrible policies previous to this that are in place that brought this about. I mean, Ukraine, as they say, is a symptom of a disease we have already. We have arterial sclerosis with regard to bringing gas into this region. And that has been opposed by NGOs and very many kind of feel-good, justice-y kind of people before. So to all the feel-good justice people for whom I have sympathy regarding what the what the cost will be, getting our cart before the horse in terms of where we would get energy in the Northeast is what has now brought us to this problem. And we must pay the piper. Those are the prices of the gas. If we had more gas capacity, there would have been more contracting for gas, and there would be more gas available to us now. There would always be pressure for increases, and depending upon how much hedging you allowed Rhode Island Energy to do. Now it would look really brilliant if 2 or 3 years ago they had proposed a significant hedging program and it had been approved. That, of course, would have cost ratepayers money, and you might have had people here saying, well, we don't want to pay 10 or 15% more to hedge. I mean, these are difficult decisions, but rather that we had good arguments over the policies that have been previously adopted. Now that they are all built into the system, there's absolutely nothing that you can do. And that that really is something that I wish to having seen that there was an expression of concern that many people within the community who work with and for people who are of limited means said, let's go down to oppose this rate increase. This can't, I can appreciate that it's of concern, but the concern should be before. That's why we have NGOs and people who think about this ahead of time, is so that hopefully there's somebody representing the ideas not to get these problems baked into the system. So that when this comes, there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. So I actually ask you to do what you must do with regard to the rate increase, to make its manner of application, whether that be in time and collection, as practical as possible. Of course, with prices being more, we recognize that this is not an increase in Rhode Island Energy's rates. Right? They promised not to increase. Well, they haven't increased their price for the piping. So it's not an increase on Rhode Island Energy's side. And that maintains their commitment. On the other hand, one can ask whether or not some of the baked-in warranties to the providing energy company are appropriate. And that has to be asked in an ongoing way. There are automatic percentages that are to be able to be collected on their operations. And while they've warranted not to raise rates, and in the face of inflation, one might say, that's actually a pretty serious commitment they've made. With everything else going up, if they maintain a commitment for some time not to raise their rates for provision, that's actually a benefit to folks. It feels like cold comfort given what the actual price of the gas is going to be. But that's pretty significant. But I also think we have to see if there's a little too rich of a cake baked there. Too many of these projects and these new ideas have they come back to us and said, well, the utility will sustain these new ideas, and in a way they've given up their own fiduciary responsibility to not let us get ahead of ourselves with new ideas, as long as they get a percent of the pie. Look, they're just plain entitled to collect whatever it costs. Why do they need an extra % on the new energies that we're bringing in? Let's say it's risky. Well, what does it matter if it's risky? Because you get to collect whatever it costs. You know, I think we have done some things for the energy companies that we need to review. Those are not subject to review here in this docket. And, you know, so I only say now is a time that I would hope that your decision in this docket could reflect the questions of efficiency. The questions that, sure, I would not doubt that many people here today concerned about their rates are, as Mr. Elgarian mentioned before me, living in multifamily houses. In almost all cases, multifamily houses are and I mean in every utility, from sewer and water as he spoke of, to electric, to gas, they are treated poorly because of the reality of the efficiencies of that provision to one address. In some cases, that could be a small factor. In other cases, you know, more as with the Narragansett Bay Commission, I have argued that they have only one roof over 3 people. The costs for Narragansett Bay Commission largely driven by rainwater now, so they contribute less rain. Yet no one has ever had the will to change those rates to reflect that. So I think there should be a commitment to the kind of housing in the kind of circumstances that many people who are difficult to afford these increases, you should redouble your efforts to understand how the rate structures should appreciate that predicament. And not just because they are deserving of charity, but because they actually do. Dense housing provides an efficiency. And we're not reflecting that in our utility rates. So I appreciate the chance to testify. I don't want to do this without empathy for the people who are concerned about how this will be paid. But if there is assistance to be given, that should be placed at the feet of the legislature, which is complicit in some of these policies and pushing our policies forward. It's fine. We want technology to move. The legislature sometimes feels they must force that technology. Now we must all pay the piper, and we have to make the best of it from here out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.